lab here at the middle school. And I'm Monica Plantan, and I've been here at Zionsville for almost 20 years and have written several grants as well, everything from a mystery unit several years back to coordinating with Deb the production lab most recently. 6th grade as well.
Excellent, excellent. I tell you, we are about to put some of the links. They were kind enough to send us links to some of the work that their students have been doing, and those links will be up on our website, our Facebook, YouTube, because to see the work that the Zionsville Middle School students are able to do, and you know, the cross curriculum that they are able to use that video studio for is fantastic. So let's go over to Zionsville West, my happy place, and let me introduce Principal Matt Doublestein.
Zionsville West is a happy place, Tracy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Matt Doublestein. I'm the principal at Zionsville West. Very grateful to ZEF and their support throughout many years. Looking back to when I was a teacher as well, a couple of grants for music things and compositions, equipment, things like that that really supported kids in learning and expressing themselves in music, even up to last year in our Z Power initiative here for some culture setting pieces of Zionsville West, but even continuing to this school year. I'm really grateful for the tremendous work of ZEF and Tracy, of course.
Wow. Very, very kind. I just get to be here and push paper and let the really smart people like the board of directors do the tough work. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just reintroduce the concept here. Thank you all who are our panel for being patient, because I see that our broadcast hadn't started right when I had expected. So just to let you know, we are here with the Grant Superstars. Not only are we going to be here and answer some questions on this Google Plus Hangout live, so that it will be recorded and be on the Zionsville Education Foundation YouTube channel after our broadcast is over. We're hoping to answer some of the questions that have been asked in the past during live grant workshops. We knew that your time is very valuable. More and more is asked of you as teachers and administrators. So by having this video chat and a Q&A coming through, this will not only be live for those of you who are joining us. Hello, literacy team, by the way, we know you're there. But it will also be on the ZEF YouTube website, and we will have links on ZionsvilleEducationFoundation.org. So let's go ahead and get to some of the questions. I had a couple questions sent to me via email, people that could not be here and who are not familiar with the Google Hangout situation. So let me start off with a question that I might be able to answer real quick. Where do I get the application? Okay, let me see if I can help you out a little bit. Follow me to my computer.
We got it.
Oh, I hear.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Oh, we can hear you, I think.
I hear you. Beautiful. Thank you, Deb. I'm going to take you off my speaker so we don't have feedback.
Good.
All right. So for those of you who have said, where is the application? First of all, I think many of you have heard me apologize for our old website. You know, ZEF, we tend to like to spend our money on you, not on administrative ideas. So this website was actually developed back in 2006. So it is a little clunky, but I got to tell you, the information is there, and I try really hard to get things to be updated, and as particularly deadlines and such should be there. So one of our little wonky things is that when you try to hit something on our homepage, right now it goes away, but you'll go to Grants for Education. It'll take you to the general grant webpage. Now this is intended for not only you as teachers and staff, but also for our potential donors and parents, and we do list the classroom grants all the way back to 2006. So this is just one of our landing pages. But I tried to clarify it a little bit better by saying for teachers, the grant applications, materials, and policies. And applications and information are right here. Now this is the page that parents and donors do not really need to have, but this is all the information you need. We describe the classroom grant application materials, the cover sheet, which I think most of you are familiar with, their proposal guidelines, grant writing, the evaluation form, follow-up form, etc. The Imagine grant, which was due on Monday, I had 5 knock it out of the park Imagine grant applications on Monday, and they were remarkable. So if you look, this is the grant cover sheet. If you're not familiar with it, I hope you will become very soon. These are the proposal guidelines. And I will let, I'm going to go to Matt here in a second and talk about following the format and really being very familiar with restrictions and conditions and what we use and what we don't, what we fund and what we don't fund. If you are interested, this is the grant evaluation form. This is what the grant committee uses. This is not a deep, dark secret. This is right here on our website to show you how many points each area gets. It's a little odd that you can get up to 75 points. It would be really nice, and if anybody wants to help me make another matrix, I would just love to have that help. But you can see where how you are assessed. And I will just go back to that, and forgive me, travel along with me. Matt, since you've had recent success with grants and such, I'd like you to talk about reading the grants policies and what you've looked for as a successful grant writer.
As it relates to looking at some of my own, as it relates to looking at other teachers, I think for me, one of the most key things and what I think has come across in looking at some good ones from other teachers is really the impact that it has on kids. It strikes me that that's really what the purpose of ZEF is. That's the purpose of what we are as a school district. Being able to have a breadth of impact and a depth of impact, I think, is a really key thing. Forgive me if that's not exactly what you're looking for, but I think the form itself kind of lends. It's not set up to be something that's difficult. It's set up to be something that's easy.
Thank you for saying that.
Well, the more honest you are about what the questions are looking for, what just reading the description of what ZEF outlines, and just following it, answering those questions, the better and more successful you'll be. It's not a secret. ZEF isn't trying to hold on to their money. They want to give it away. And I think looking at the descriptions of what sorts of things they're looking for in each section is really to that form.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, I will say that particularly if you're a new teacher, I can completely understand if there's something you missed on the guidelines, but ZEF, when they were created, this is way before I was here, even before many of our board members were here, the emphasis was try to make this easy because you have enough to do. But I will say that our grant committee in the 2 years that I've been here have become very sophisticated and have high expectations. Let me go to Deb and Monica and talk about, if you wouldn't mind answering that question here, about what makes an application stand out. Matt just touched on it and how it impacts students. Let's show how that has worked for you.
Well, I think what we try to do, ZEF is always set up to kind of go above and beyond, like something unique, something original. And I think what we looked for this last time is how we integrate the subject areas and cover multiple standards with a unique way of students getting some in-depth chance to research. So I think it was taking some of the best practices, which is the synthesis of ideas, and putting that into the grant. And that's a lot of education jargon, but I think if I speak correctly to it, we tried to set up an idea of this is what we envision, and so, you know, actually even putting in pictures of what we thought this room would look like and how we thought it would be used. Deb?
I think one of the key things is to really talk about what it is you're envisioning with someone, whether it's a co-writer or a colleague or an administrator. Because when you start talking about it, the picture becomes more real. And as you develop the picture, you can articulate that more effectively on the actual grant application. I think you have the people who grants are not in the classroom. They don't know the people who are writing the grant requests and need to be given a clear picture of just what's happening and how it's going to be different because of what ZEF is going to provide.
Deb, thank you for that, and forgive me for just jumping on. But as I think about a handful of them that I've read recently, that's exactly the key, is envisioning what does this actually look like. Not necessarily some grand idea that doesn't have a roadmap, but what is that roadmap and plan for how this makes a difference for kids day in and day out, kid in and kid out, year in and year out. Those concrete ideas and talking it through just like that, I think, is really beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll piggytail onto that. I will say that the grant committees have been very enthused with grants that have a large impact, like we've talked about with Z-West's Z-Power, and the fact that it affected the entire school. What Deb and Monica did, you know, impacted a large amount of students. And then, Jenny, I'm going to ask for you to talk about, even though your segment of students may be smaller, every single grant you've written, you showed how it will make a difference in a child's life, a significant difference. And without this grant, this child will not have the experience and will not be able to learn. Can you address that impact?
Sure. I think that you know, ZEF does a really nice job of making all students feel important. When I put that on the cover page, when it asks how many students will be impacted, and my number is 9, I'm always like, oh, where can I find a couple more students to impact this? But 9 students is, you know, impacting 9 students in a specific way is 9 students, and ZEF really sees that. So as long as you can really show that this is going to make a difference, ZEF has been very responsive to that. I did want to go back to the first question and just add something that wasn't already said, that as far as grant writing goes, there's very specific protocol on making sure that everything sits on 4 pages, and, you know, the amount of paragraphs and the size font and things like that, and making sure that the pages are numbered. And those are just really easy, important things to pay attention to. You would never want your grant not to be funded because you didn't follow the guidelines of formatting it. And that's just, you know, a good tip to be aware of.
Jenny, that was a great tip, and that was one of the questions that I got via email, that just how picky is the grant committee. And I will say that if you have a misspelling, unlike if you've sent an application to the Ball Foundation or to the Lilly Endowment Foundation, you know, I have a bit of grant writing experience about a billion years ago, and I knew that if there was a typo, it'd get thrown away. I will tell you that we want to see it done well and written correctly. I mean, you are a teacher, so the expectations are high, and so that is true. But no, it won't get thrown away if there's a typo. However, we did have a couple of grants in recent years that the funding and how I guess the area about the budget was not very clear. And also the follow-up. This is, if I can give you guys one nugget of information, the follow-up area is becoming more and more important, because as I'm going to have to ask donors for more and more funding, and thankfully Missy Kofer and Bob Spoonmore and our other board members are really helping us with that, we are going to have to show results. I think you all get it, that it's very hard to quantify a lot of what you do, but we can get quality. If you say in your follow-up, you know, I'm going to have a focus group of the kids at the end of the program and ask them questions, and I'll video record it and send it to ZEF. That'd be great. Say you're going to have a Q&A or a survey sent to the parents saying, oh, I want to see what the parent feedback of the literacy program is. That would be great. Even if you get parent quotes or student quotes, that would help us a lot. Right now, our office is really going to have to shift back to that feedback and the results. You know, I can take them into any one of your classrooms and show them the results, but I need some things on paper. So that area of the grant is, we really need to be very specific. We had another question that came up. Let's see, what won't ZEF fund? Great question. Do anyone of the panel, do you want to answer that, or would you like me?
I have experience with that. As a no-go.
God bless.
I have two answers to that. ZEF is not funding programs or activities that happen every year. They're supposed to be new experiences. I have had the same grant funded more than once, but as a rule, they don't want to be responsible for ongoing programming. And the other thing that I tried to work with ZEF, Julie Nolan and we wrote a grant for Camp Town, and part of that included an overnight camping trip, and we needed staff to come to the camping trip, and we were going to see if we could incorporate paying staff to come and assist the students, and ZEF will not pay wages to employees. So those are two things in my experience that ZEF will not fund.
Well, Jenny, you hit the nail on the head, and I think that Deb can speak to this, because she and I just talked earlier this week, that I am very grateful, and the current board of directors is very grateful, that in our mission statement we say that we can never fund a staff position or a salary, because that would be a slippery slope, and I think we all know where that could lead. And even though, gosh, if I could get $1 million grant, I would love to fund a teacher or two or three, or even a staff for an extraordinary program. But then how do you decide which staff is justified the next year? So that is tough. And it's also written on the application, I'll just add in there too, and I think we've done a good job of this, that we do not fund supplies. That is a great grant request to the PTO. And being, as you all know, I was very involved in PTO and helped with the enrichment grants, and a lot of times supplies are allowed depending on which PTO you work with in your building, but supplies that are consumables, we don't do either. We'd like to have some sustainability. Deb and Monica, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think the impact is looking to be something beyond the immediate impact. And I think materials and equipment last past 1 unit warrants a big dollar expenditure. It's not a good use of ZEF dollars to invest in something that is really just a very basic kind of supply that's going to be used up and gone.
Thank you for letting me take a second there. I just got another question, so forgive me for when I look away and got distracted, but I got another question. Let's see, if I need help writing or editing my application, who can I ask? I know we kind of touched on this a little bit before. Panel, can I send this to you and then I have a follow-up?
Yeah, this is Deb. I am happy to sit with anybody and walk through the grant writing, helping edit, helping formulate ideas. I would be thrilled to do that for someone.
Same. And this is Monica. It's just something I really love doing. Somebody else be worthy come through it.
I would say that, and I agree in as far as helping others, but a lot of the grants that I write have to do with working with my speech therapist or working with my occupational therapist. So I would have them look at it, or even just other people that work in my classroom, just to make sure that, you know, I know what I'm trying to say, but does this paint the picture of what we're trying to get at?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
I'd also offer that there's some degree of pride as a building administrator that our teachers would not only get grants, but they'd be interested in applying for them. We have a real interest, not only from that pride piece, but in providing our kids great opportunities that teachers envision. We want to make things happen for teachers too, and in this grant process we have that opportunity. So not only just being able to talk about it, but maybe there's some other ways to think about certain aspects of the grant itself. Sometimes if there, you know, I might be in touch with someone who wishes to help in a logistical part of executing a grant, or seeking donations for an element of it that might reduce the funding load on ZEF or something like that. There are all sorts of ins and outs that maybe I might be plugged into, or want to support a teacher in their work.
I would also say that I think sometimes people have great ideas, and because they look at the application and they can't really flesh it out, that they give up too soon.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time to start talking to other people about it and get that input to help somebody understand how to take an idea and turn it into something that is fundable.
I love hearing this from all of you, and that's why you are grant superstars. That is exactly why we asked for you to do that. One of the other aspects of naming the people that I've mentioned, and I'm going to go back and mention that again for anyone who jumped in, because I do have a couple of people that just jumped in again. At each building, at each Zionsville School Corporation building, we have 1 or 2 grant superstars that ZEF has named. And let me go through them again. Over at Zionsville Community High School, we've got Jenny Davis. At ZMS, Monica Plantan and Deb Krupowicz. At Z West, it's Matt Doublestein. At Pleasant View Elementary is Jodi Burns and Matt Mybeck. And hi, Jodi, thank you so much for being in there. We see you there. At Eagle, Beth Brent, and she is fantastic also with Donors Choose, which we're going to get to here in a second. Over at Union, Sara Hunter, who is, I'm just going to put in a plug, she has become my daughter's Girl Scout program advisor for her Girl Scout Gold Award, so she's all about helping, and so I'm thankful for that. So a little shout out to Sara for helping us with that. And finally over at Stonegate, Ryan LaPlante and Allison Spillman. Allison wanted to be with us, but she was a little under the weather, so Allison, if you're watching, you know, please be well and take care of yourself. I know that you would be here if you could. So the reason I mentioned the names again is that if they're not here and on this chat, they have agreed to say, yes, anyone in my building can come to me and I'll sit down with you and say, hey, you know what, this is what I had success with, I would manipulate this a little bit. Oh, instead of just having one budget item, let's give them option A, B, and C. And I'm here to tell you that the grant committee will probably choose B. So You know, things like that. They're really good at that. But I've also given everybody the charge that if somebody is too busy, if somebody goes to Sarah Hunter and says, oh gosh, I really need help on my grant today, and Sara just can't find the time that day, she has permission to say, listen, you know what, I can't do it today. Would you pick up the phone and call Tracy? I don't get a vote, so I'm here to help you. And you all have my cell phone number, and you can call me on a weekend when you have time to work on a grant. And I would love to help. Since I don't get a vote, I feel like I'm your advocate, so let's do that. So with that, let's see. Somebody asked what is the typical amount of funding applicants ask for. Deb? Deb and Monica, I'm going to send this to you because you've seen grants over the last few years, and you've seen the change of amount. On our website, I will say before I throw it to you, we used to say that we give grants from $500 to $3,000 typically. What do you think about that?
I think equipment is expensive, and we have not shied away from asking for expensive equipment when it's going to make a big impact, and ZEF has stepped up for that. I've had grants from $1,000 to $9,000 or $10,000.
Absolutely. Let's see. I know, and I will say, as you've seen in the last 2 years, well, the last few years, not only for the classroom grant situation, where we have a budget. I will tell you right now, our budget for the fall grants, which, as you know, are due September 22nd. That's not the last time I'm going to mention that date, but the fall 2014 grants are due September 22nd. Our ZEF budget is $35,000, and I'm very proud of this organization that we stay in the black, and we will stay at that budget. Sometimes there are extraordinary circumstances, one of which was starting up of the robotics program at the high school. That was not a classroom grant. That was a board-initiated special grant. If you think that there's something that has wow potential and really out of the box, don't be afraid to ask. But the classroom grant cycle may not be the place to do it. When Mr. East and Jenny Fraley came to us with the idea of starting the one-to-one laptop program at the high school, they came to us to a board meeting, and it was a special board designated grant when we gave commitment to $50,000 to start up that grant. So just to give you an idea, our board wants to help in every way and with big impact as well. Anyone else have any ideas about amount of funding?
The worst you can do is say no. So reach for the stars.
Yep. I agree. And
I have a question for you. It's been my feeling that there are many more grants written in the spring than in the fall, and I don't know if that's true. Can you answer that question? Do you receive more grants in the fall or the spring?
Yep, I would love to answer. In fact, I have my sheets with me right here to tell you. Last fall, we received 21 grants for a total of $77,383. And as you recall, our budget is about $35,000. In the spring, we received 13 grant applications asking for $34,000. Now, last spring, because as many of you know, we changed our fundraiser and we had a little bit less to deal with, so our budget ended up being $29,000. So we actually get fewer. Oh, excuse me while I do this. There you go. I had to hit a note. There we go. Are we good?
Yep.
Yep, we're good. sorry everyone who was watching. So you can see we actually it seems to be the tendency is we have more fall grants because people want to use their funds in the spring. If you ask for a spring grant, you have to wait until the fall to implement it. So there are fewer grants in the spring in at least the last 5 years.
That's interesting. I thought the same thing that Deb thought, that there was more in the spring.
I am really glad that you brought that question up. Yeah, no, fewer in the spring, and I will be able to say definitely, you know, we generally have $35,000 and $35,000 budgeted. So we'll have the same budget. Yes.
I know for me, I tend to write more spring grants than I do fall grants because I feel like, oh my goodness, the deadline's coming up next 2 Mondays from now, and I feel like I only have my feet kind of wet. So I usually have my ducks in a row more in the spring than I do right now. But that's great to know.
Yep. Yep. I might dovetail onto the going back to the question of the amount of grants and what we normally fund. I've noticed in the 2 years that I've been here now that the grant committee will say, wow, this is a really justified expenditure of money, but we are starting to get close to our budget line and we've got to cut somewhere. I hate to cut. Let's cut this $479 grant and call them up and say, listen, why don't you put it on Donors Choose? And well, I'm going to ask one of you to address Donors Choose in a second here. And what will happen is we hate to make that call, but we have to cut somewhere. And if it's under $500, as you know, if it's something that a teacher can put on Donors Choose, and it's a Zionsville Community Schools Foundation staff member, Carolyn Getz, by the way, a big applause for Carolyn for making this happen. She just came through the ZEF office. But getting back to Donors Choose, if a grant is $500 or less and you make it to the halfway point, ZEF will fund the back half. Can I ask one of my panelists who have done a Donors Choose to explain how you have gone about that process?
Well, ZEF has just been so generous, none of us have had to do that.
I love it. Well, I'm here to tell you that a couple of our superstars we very specifically asked, like Matt Mybeck. Oh my goodness, he's the king of Chrome books. Last spring, he got a number of Chromebooks that way, and so we will have links once this is up on our YouTube channel. I'll make sure that we have everyone's email address there, so if anyone has a question about how to do Donors Choose from the teacher's perspective, we'll get that done. Let's see, that was one of my last questions from email. I'm just going to check, if you don't mind, I'm going to check our Twitter feed, and I hope everybody already knows that we have ZEF in 140 is our handle. If you aren't, if you are on Twitter, please do follow us. I've noticed it's interesting. Most of our followers are teachers on Twitter. Most of our followers on Facebook are moms. Definitely moms. Dads, we love you, but the moms are on Facebook. And I am looking right now, and I am not seeing another question. Nope, we don't have any more Twitter questions, so I'm going to leave it open to the panel, and we're getting at about 45 minutes into this, so this is a good time to wrap up, but let me go around to you, start with Deb and Monica, and see if you have any closing thoughts.
Nope, I would just encourage everyone to give it a try, apply. The first one might be a little bit out of the comfort zone, but after that, you kind of become a regular. It's like a little, you get hooked.
I would just second that and say that what starts happening is the thoughts that kind of are fleeting thoughts through your mind all of a sudden become real and possible, and I think you're much more inclined to think something can turn into something instead of just letting it go.
Mm-hmm. That is great. That's inspiring. I love it. Jenny, going to send that to you.
Well, I just want to say that there's nothing better than when ZEF comes around with one of these things. There's no flags right here. It's definitely not as intimidating as it seems when you look at the form and all of the criteria. It's kind of overwhelming when you look at it, but really if you just sit down in front of your computer and write your thoughts out, you can cut and paste them in the right boxes. It's not as hard as it looks, but it's definitely rewarding for your kids, so I encourage everyone to do it.
Great, great. All right, Matt, you're up.
Yeah, I can't really say much better than these folks already have. I have to express gratitude to teachers who will put themselves out there to try new things and try exciting things, and ZEF for getting behind them. Everything they've said about being willing to give ideas a life and just try it, put it to paper, all that is great advice, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Oh, I will say one more thing that, of course, there have been times where I have been denied a grant and I will resubmit it in the spring or in the fall, and it has been awarded the next season. So just because your grant didn't get awarded doesn't mean that ZEF didn't like it or it wasn't written well. And usually, if you aren't being awarded your grant, one of the board members will leave you a voicemail or call you and tell you it just wasn't in the budget or whatever it was. But I always resubmit my grant, and I've had success with having it funded the second time around.
Jenny, I am really glad you pointed that out because it is true. And I will say from sitting in on the grant committees and any principal, because we do have a principal that sits in on the grant committee, a non-voting person, but gives us a lot of insight. Anyone who's been on a grant committee or a board member will tell you we try very hard to write down and be very specific to give feedback to teachers. And in that call, which is either a call, either a voicemail or a personal call, we try to say very specifically, we really think this should go to Donors Choose, or you really should think about going to the PTO, or gosh, we would have funded $10,000 more if we had $10,000 more. And when then they say that, I think, oh man, I need to go out and earn more money for ZEF because that's my job. So, because we want to. Well, I'm here to tell you I've received my first classroom grant already. So again, yeah, I know that is early. The grants are due again. The fall 2014 classroom grants are due September 22nd. They do not usually come to the ZEF office first. They go straight to the building supervisor, the building principal. This already has been signed off by the building principal, Mr. Doublestein. And then it goes to the superintendent. Dr. Robinson does look over these before he gives them to ZEF, because we need to make sure that it's something that is within the school budget or within the curriculum. And sometimes he'll know something about curriculum that obviously, since we are not part of the ZCS system, we are a separate 501c3, there's something that our board and I might just not know, but he would. So that's why it should go to him. So on that, September 22nd, 4 o'clock is the deadline to Dr. Robinson's office. 4 o'clock. And I mean it, because we've gotten grants at 4:30. But we want to fund you, so just do your best to get there at 4:30 or give me a call. Oh, I love it. Thank you, Mr. Doublestein, for putting that up there. If you have more questions, you know how to get a hold of any of us here at ZEF. You now know who to contact at your buildings. And then if they refer you to me, my email is tphillips@zcs.k12.in.us. Our website, zionsvilleeducationfoundation.org. And do not hesitate to ask a question. There is never a question that is too simple or too complex. I want to fund you all, so we'll try that again. Again, thank you so much to Deb Krupowicz, Monica Plantan, to Jenny Davis, Jodi Burns. Again, thank you for being in with us. I appreciate your group chat and Q&A out there. And Matt Doublestein, newly minted principal at Z West. Thank you for being here, and we may see you again in another Google chat. Have a great day, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Looks like it's just you and me, Tracy.
I know. I was like, leave.
I think it's still rolling.
I think we go, and
I don't know how to end that. I think that's weird.
oh, see, I have the take photo. I'm gonna try to.
I think my mouse hit something. With the
Oh,
photo.
that's all right. All right, so I'm gonna hang up, my dear, and once this gets on YouTube, I'll cut this part out. Thank you for everything, Matt. You're
Great.
awesome.
You too, Tracy. Have a great one.
Okay, you too. Take care. Thanks.